final thing we're going to talk about this week is the long-awaited chapter. Ehobby has been known for their specific manga chapter releases that they've been releasing periodically through some of their special releases, whether it be a Mastepiece toy or a Henkei toy. Their Binaltech Chapter 20 manga, Outlier, has finally come out. They use the Transformers Generation guidebooks, their 2019 release, to use this as their platform to do it. And it's a continuation from the last chapter, chapter 19, called Unfinished Business, Part 4, which was released 10 years ago. So 10 years waiting for the next chapter in the Alternator, Binaltech, and Alternity toy line story. 10 years later. Now, right now, as it stands, this chapter hasn't been translated completely, but that didn't stop me from throwing it into a translation machine to get the whole story. Essentially, what happened is it's a alternate retelling of when the Maximals were going back to Cybertron after they won the Beast Wars in Season 3. They somehow didn't get back to Cybertron, and the ship exploded, and they got separated from their comrades, and some of them got stuck in transwarp time travel. We fast forward to the Alternator timeline, which, for anyone that knows, the Black Optimus Prime repaint, also known as Nemesis Prime and Alternators, was repurposed as Optimus Primal in the Alternators storyline. So what's cool is that Hirofumi, the manga artist, what he did this time around is he took the Black Optimus Prime toy, but he just gave it a primal head and some primal color scheme on it to like cement home that this is this character. Because when we were first introduced to this Black Optimus Prime toy in Binaltech, he was just called the Protector passing through time. And it pretty much suggested that it was Optimus Primal. So, it shows the story of him talking to Grimlock and Grimlock not liking being a Mustang. I don't blame him on that one. And then it just talks about the history of all the other stuff that's going on with Transformers, with Alternity, what was happening with the brain scan stuff and everything. Pretty much it leads to a battle against a toy that never really got any kind of fictional depiction properly in Decepticharge. Decepticharge was a S2000 Alternator toy that never got released in Japan. This specific release, the Decepticharge one, but it got released in America in limited numbers. The Decepticharge mold would go on to be used as Legion in the Kiss Play line, but that's a whole other story. And Legion, if you Google him, is hashtag dick tongue. But anyways, but there was what they did later on was there was plans to take the S2000 mold and repaint it into a female character called Black Arachnia. And and this was something that was planned to happen in the Binaltech line. It ended up not getting released in the end. So this story pretty much features the Autobot Alternators, or Binaltech Alternators, whatever you want to call them, against two unreleased S2000 toys. Another interesting thing to note about in this manga is some other toys appear in this comic, specifically MP02, the original Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. Which at the time Masterpiece was kind of tied with Alternators because they were the same scale. And if you actually look at the early Alternator trading cards and the early Masterpiece trading cards, they had the same style as if they were intended to be displayed together. What's also cool about the manga is if you look carefully in the background, the unreleased Alternators Bumblebee toy is there.
Yeah.
So Bumblebee was going to get an Alternators toy. The prototype is still in Hasbro's head office still to this day. And they just couldn't get the rights to Volkswagen to do it. So, but he's there hanging out.
That's too bad that the Jazz one doesn't make an appearance too.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, that's the funny thing is a lot of the stuff in this manga is a lot of the fan wank stuff that just kind of was in the background. Jazz, like Jaws D mentioned, he turned into a Porsche, like a really like modernized Porsche, and that does exist. And Jazz was actually one of the very first Alternator toys tooled, along with Smokescreen. So it's funny that they didn't make a nod to that. Maybe in continuity, Meister wasn't around at the time or something.
Probably.
Meister, like I don't know.
Or maybe because Meister ended up getting released anyway, so there's no point in like.
It's true, yeah.
Or maybe they go back in time and
you know what?
boom, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what? You're probably 100% right because Meister ends up getting a toy. So why muck it up with another design? You're right. You know, like why show a toy that people go, oh hey, I can't own that. You know. You also see obviously they also with the S2000 they did RC with that too, and that did get released. So they show a whole bunch of stuff. It shows Black Arachnia. She's currently possessing this character. And then we get a nod to the episode Autobot Spike, where Spike was put into this neurological device. I forget what it was called. It had a weird name. But essentially, Spike was put into this device so that his soul could be put into Autobot X. This is when it was the first episode of Season 2 of G1 where they're like, oh, we want to make Spike an Autobot. How do we do that? Well, we're going to take all these spare parts of like the Autobots and mash them together and then make this like Frankenstein kind of character. And then we'll use this device that'll take Spike's soul and put it inside Autobot Spike, you know? But yeah, so this device, like, they're pretty much like, well, what are we going to do? And so you have Carly here, and Carly's like, I volunteered to, like, you know, put my soul. And so she puts her soul, and it goes inside the characters and interrupts them. And then you end up finding out that it's actually the dark being that was inside the Matrix when you had the hate plague and all that kind of stuff. And it removes Black Arachnia and separates her from the Alternator, and they become two separate entities. And then the whole story just kind of ends with Grimlock meeting up with his other Dinobots and them going like, oh, Grimlock is weak now, he's a car, and then him beating the hell out of all of them, proving he's still strongest.
He's still the king.
And that's it. It's a cute little story that, like, a lot of these short Ehobby and the Sakamoto ones, there's stuff that you can't read quickly. You have to, like, stare at every single panel and look at what's going on because there's always stuff in the background. It's the same thing like when I write the TFCon comic. Because you have a limited number of pages, you try to put as much as you can in every panel to convey a story. And it's the same thing that's going on here. Like every single panel, there's something going on. And so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I really dig that they were using a lot of unreleased designs in the background, and that after 10 years, the Alternator story is still going. And this isn't a definitive conclusion, so there's still stuff to be told here. Who knows? Maybe the Next Generation's guidebook, maybe their quarterly release or their end-of-year release, we might get another chapter of this 8-page manga. But it's pretty cool stuff. G1 Dinobots, Carly, Decepticharge, Binaltech, Black Arachnia. A lot of cool stuff going on here. So definitely check it out. It's on TFW right now, and they'll probably have the pages translated at some point. But until then, enjoy it for the pictures.